Right, so the Abyssus POV has been released, and I'm going to analyse it because I've got nothing better to do. Abyssus has been quite a highly anticipated roller coaster since we knew it was going to be built. Opening at Energylandia in Poland this year, it's going to pretty much be the biggest new Vekoma coaster in Europe, and it's going to be a chance for a lot of people to see how good Vekomas of the new generation are going to be. Abyssus is quite long, it's got 2 launches, lots of tunnels, 4,300 foot of track. Well, I'm just gonna get into it. Of course, we have seen animated POVs for this layout before, so there's gonna be no surprises with the layout, but now that it's here in real life, I do want to analyze the actual POV. So as normal, when I make this style of video, I'm going to go through it once, first give my initial reactions in real time, then I'm going to look at it a bit some more and try deliver some more in-depth stuff on it. Okay, so the first launch is very short, but it's very snappy and it gets lots of acceleration quickly. You make your way to the right, lots of kind of small airtime pops. This section isn't really that fast, but it still does some interesting things, some kind of, I don't know, funky maneuvers, not masses of force, but some, you know, some pretty decent airtime pops there. So it really gets started with the second launch, which does have some very high acceleration for LSMs. Coming up into the big top hat, it is forceful, it's quick, there's lots of airtime, it makes its way back down quickly. The loop looks pretty intense, and another airtime pop, very cool there, kind of sideways. You got lots of strong airtime. Back wing as well, that's going to offer lots of great intensity, and the tunnel is cool as well. Making your way back out of that, you've got some kind of intensity and a very twisty airtime moment, and another very strong actually airtime hill. Make your way around to the right, cool kind of corkscrew maneuver, 0G, whatever you want to call it. Inclusion of a cool wave turn there, keeping the pace pretty well. Still using lots of short, twisting airtime pops and another pop of airtime into the brakes. Okay. Okay, so after watching it for the first time, the thing that really stood out for me was just the inclusion of lots of small and a few bigger airtime moments. Most of them are transitions, but a lot of them are profiled really well, almost outward banked to give maximum airtime. I mean, as well as the twisty ones, you've got ones that are twisty and then straight. What am I on about? But anyway, it looks good, alright? It looks very good. Good pacing. Even when the train does begin to slow down, it keeps the pacing. What else is there to say? First impressions, very good. We, you know, from day one, since we saw the layout of this coaster, we were expecting it to be very good. And in the real POV, it has delivered that. So now, I'm just going to watch it a few more times, try come up with some more in-depth stuff. But this coaster looks sick. I really want to ride it. Anyway, it's proper analysis time. Okay, so starting with the first LSM launch, it is very short in terms of length, but it is also very snappy, so it does hit that high acceleration, and it is going to feel forceful. Although the speed might not be that high after the first launch, the first turn to the right is taken fast, and the airtime hill on the way out offers some nice, strong floater. The next transition offers some slightly stronger airtime, picking up some pretty decent strength, and then some maybe slowish S-bends take you around into a very sharp, very strong this time airtime hill. Yeah, so the airtime is really beginning to become a strength that's going to catch a lot of people off guard. I mean, yeah, it's strong for a Vekoma. It's pretty strong. What else can I say? So you pop up into the second launch with a similar strong pop of airtime. The second launch again offers some pretty high forceful acceleration, up to 62 miles an hour, assuming this is where the top speed is hit. It might not be because it has back wing, which is lower, but I don't think it would really be much faster if it did hit the top speed there. The 180-degree pull up into the top hat is done very quickly. Vekoma definitely haven't been afraid to make short bursts of intensity on their rides like this. The flip out of the banking as well is also very quick. It is quite interesting actually that this is a very similar turnaround to the one on Zadra, apart from it goes down steeper and isn't outward banked. Doesn't really say that much about the ride, but I just think it's interesting that two rides in the same park have very similar turnarounds. So there are trims on the top of the hill, so that means it's a terrible ride. Don't go and ride it. This reviews over. Terrible jokes aside though, from what I've heard about these Vekoma launch coasters, the trims are meant to be activated every time, but having said that, it's not to slow the train down to an annoying speed, because, I mean, don't quote me on this because I'm not 100% certain, but from what I've heard, the Vekoma launch coasters are set to launch slightly faster than how quickly they should go through the layout to prevent rollbacks, so the brakes are meant to be activated every time for that. And despite there being trims at the top, the train spares no time in cresting the top of the hill, and if you're in the front, you're going to get some very strong airtime when you're cresting it. Again, if you're on the front row, when you twist out of the turn into it, that is going to also happen very quickly and be quite whippy. Not sure if it will deliver airtime, but it's still going to be quite a fast sensation, you know, pushing you back upright very quickly. Now here, when the ride has its maximum height, you know, it's very high up, it goes down extremely steep for a ride that doesn't have a chain lift and it's just kind of going off a top hat. You know, it's near or maybe even vertical drop, so if you are on the back, it is going to be pretty insane going down that hill. After bottoming out, you go into a vertical loop, which is, well, it's taken at a good speed, so it's going to deliver some nice intensity. I'm not usually a fan of vertical loops because I think they're just overused and a bit boring, but I think because on this ride it goes through it quickly and it is going to offer some high positives, I think it is well placed and it is going to work. The transition out of the turn banks quite quickly to give you airtime and then drops down into more of a bigger airtime hill when it's finished banking. This is going to be an interesting moment of the ride because the transition out is going to throw you off a bit off axis. The hill doesn't look like it's designed to be 0G laterals. It looks like it is designed to throw you to the side a bit while you're having airtime banking back to a normal position. That is cool, and then you do drop down, and as I keep on saying, it's got some strong airtime, especially on the back. That's going to be fun. And when you go into the tunnel, you are quite close to the walls, so there is going to be that sensation of speed and feeling that you're going to hit somewhere. Then you enter the Batwing element. So on the first inversion of the two on this, the entrance into it is fairly quick and you are pushed up into your seat hard when you begin to dive down. Now when you get to the very bottom of the element, the pull-out might not be that sharp, although I don't think this means the element isn't going to be intense, because when it pulls back up into the second inversion, it still does that very tight. So although it doesn't pull up that sharply at the bottom, I think overall it's still going to be a very intense element, especially as you pull out at high speed and then you exit just the same as you came in reverse. After diving under the tunnel, there's another airtime treat. A twisted airtime hill for a transition out of the turn. This goes from a high bank in one direction to a high bank in another direction. And yes, this is also very strong, as I'm having to keep repeating because it is a very common theme with the transitions on this ride. And on this transition, it does seem to maybe have some very slight outer banking at the highest points, just to maximise the airtime strength and duration at the very start and the very end of the turn. It's kind of difficult to see, but if they have done this, I love it. So after that, some positives on the turn takes you up into a very nice, large, strong airtime hill. It's great to just include some pure, normal, strong ejector at a point in the ride. Sustained for a decent amount of time as well. It might not be the biggest airtime hill in the world, but it provides a long enough duration to give that sense of power. If we pause the POV here, we can see and confirm that when I was talking about that maybe slight outer banking on the transition, it is there. As long as that bit I'm looking at is actually the same bit. But anyway, you bank into a corkscrew type element that exits more like a 0G roll. Again, Vekoma have been pretty perfect here by making sure that you get airtime when you're upside down and exiting the inversion. Very nice element, I like it. You know, the corkscrew bit on the way in pushes you against your seat, and then as soon as you start to turn upside down, you come out your seat and stay there the rest of it all the way down, including when you start to bank into the next turn. That extra little bank on the end offers a little bit more airtime time. And then this right hand turn exits into a small wave turn, offering some nice flow turn, not anything more, not any ejector, just a nice little floaty sideways moment that's sustained for a decent amount of time before you flick to the left again and bank out. After that, you make your way round to the left again. Maybe not as much positives as other parts of the ride on this section, although that might just be because this POV was taken in early testing, so it's running a bit slow towards the end of the ride. Regardless of that though, it takes you into another airtime filled transition, this one with some pretty strong airtime on again, diving underground for one last turn before you pop up with airtime into the brakes. Now one thing that I haven't really said that much about this coaster before is that it is very smooth. Everything about it, all of the transition, well actually no, I'm not going to say transitions because I've said that way too many times, but the whole of the ride is very smooth. The airtime moments, the exits, the elements that have airtime, and look, I'm just trying to say it looks very smooth, alright? The airtime is strong, enough to really send you flying out of your seat, perhaps quite unexpectedly. Now maybe it's not RMC level, but it definitely is, you know, really up there with airtime strength on kind of looping coasters, probably on par with the stronger airtime on the better Mac coasters like Icon, Copperhead, Strike and Helix. For the majority of the time, the airtime moments are quick, but they're shaped well to keep the airtime sustained and really poppy. You know, there's a lot of airtime on this ride, but it's not the focus of it. The focus is inversions and fun layout, and within that fun layout comes lots of airtime, lots of really epic transitions shaped very well as well, with a very good level of intensity sustained throughout the whole thing. There may be some bits where the intensity looks a little bit lacking, but I think that is just because towards the end of the ride this is POV and testing, it's going to be slow, and the bit before the second launch maybe is a little bit slow, but I mean I can't really say much about that. It's maybe a bit slow, but the airtime is still cool. Anyway, that's about what I have to say about this coaster. You can argue with me in the comments all you like, but hopefully I've done a good enough analysis of this for you to not hate me. Anyway, that's the video. Thanks for watching. I really had to push this out as quick as I can, but anyway, subscribe if you haven't. Bye.